Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. A very warm welcome to this Monday, 1st December 2025 morning Śrīmad Bhāgavatam discussion. Today we are reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam Canto 3, entitled The Status Quo, Chapter 19, entitled The Appearance of Varaha, Text 3. Before we discuss on this verse, let's sing śraddadhānāya. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Shri Radhe, Jai Nitai Sachinandana, Gaura Hari, Jaya Nitai Sachinandana, Gaura Hari, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura, Hari Bol. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivrajakacharya Shudra Shatashi Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय, प्रेम से गौ श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय, वृंदावन धाम की जय, मथुरा धाम की जय, जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय, गंगा माई की जय, यमुना माई की जय, तुलसी देवी की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, सामवेद भक्त वृंद की जय. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishna Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatarine. Sarvam Shri Krishnarpanamastu. Krishne Matirastu. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we are going to read from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam Canto 3, Chapter 13, Text 3. Caritaṁ tasya rājarṣer ādi-rājasya sattama brūhi me śraddadhānāya viṣvaksenāśrayo asau. Caritaṁ tasya rājarṣer ādi-rājasya sattama brūhi me śraddadhānāya viṣvaksenāśrayo asau. Caritaṁ tasya rājarṣer ādi-rājasya sattama brūhi me śraddadhānāya viṣvaksenāśrayo asau. Word by word, charitam, character. Tasya is rājarṣer of the saintly king. Ādi-rājasya of the original king. Sattama, O most pious one. Brūhi, kindly speak. Me, unto me. Śraddadhānāya, unto one eager to receive. Viṣvaksena, of the personality of Godhead. Āśrayaha, one who has taken shelter. He, certainly. Asau, that king. Translation: O best of the virtuous, the original king of kings, Manu, was a great devotee of the personality of Godhead Hari, and thus it is worth hearing of his sublime character and activities. Please describe them. I am very eager to hear. Purport by His Divine Grace Śrīmad Bhāgavatam Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is full of the transcendental topics of the personality of Godhead and his pure devotees. In the absolute world, there is no difference in quality between the Supreme Lord and his pure devotee. Therefore, hearing the topics of the Lord and hearing of the character and activities of the pure devotee have the same result, namely the development of devotional service. Before we discuss on this verse, let us offer some prayers. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Shreshtham Manamapi Shachiputram Matra Swarupam Rupam Tasyagrajam Murupurim Mathurim Goshthavati Radha Kundam Girivaram Maho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parjana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanyatevam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Adadandastranam Dante Idam Yacha Punah Punah Shriman Rupa Padam Bhojam Tulisyam Janma Janmani. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we are reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam Canto 3, Chapter 13, Text 3. Caritaṁ tasya rājarṣer ādi-rājasya sattama brūhi me śraddadhānāya viṣvaksenāśrayo asau. O best of the virtuous, the original king of kings, Manu, was a great devotee of the personality of Godhead Hari, and thus it is worth hearing of his sublime character and activities. Please describe them. I am very eager to hear. So these are the discussions that are taking place between Mahatma Vidura and Maitreya Muni. And these discussions are between the pure devotees of Krishna. Matchitta Madgat Prana Bodhayanta Parasparam Kathayantascha Mam Nityam Tushyanti Cha Ramanti Cha. This is the qualification of someone who is totally absorbed in Krishna. their mind is totally absorbed in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mat-chitta. Mat-chitta satatam bhava. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dhrudavrata. That is a qualification. That is satatam. That is that there is constantly one is remembering Krishna. This is the abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nanya gamina paramam purusham divyam yati partha anuchintayan. Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that when one is practicing this abhyasa yoga, abhyasa is practice, yoga is that connection with Krishna. So when we practice to connect with Krishna, chetasa na anya gamina, and the mind should not go anywhere else except focusing on Krishna. Paramam purusham divyam. Krishna says, remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is divine. Yati partha anuchintayan. That is, O Partha, O son of Pritha, O son of Kunti Devi, you constantly remember me like that. So this is Mat-chitta Madgat Prana, Bodhayanta Parasparam. The mind is totally absorbed. When the mind is absorbed, the life force is also absorbed. The breath. And there is a deep connection between the mind and the breath. If the mind is disturbed, the breath will also be disturbed. It will be shallow and fast. If the mind is in a very calm state, the breath will be in a very long and deep breaths will automatically happen. And in the same way, if the breath is controlled, the mind will be controlled as well. And so there is this is the prana, the chitta and prana, the mind and the breath, which the breathing is one of the important characteristics of living person. So what are the important things that by which one can find out that unfortunately a person has died? So the breathing has stopped and the heart beating has also stopped. So those are the two important functionalities that is making the person alive. And this is what is Mat-chitta Madgat Prana. The mind is totally absorbed in Krishna. The breath is, that means the whole life force is engaged in Krishna. When the mind is engaged in Krishna. Bodhayanta Parasparam. That is what is happening here. They are talking to each other. They are sharing their realizations with each other. Kathayantascha mam nityam. Constantly they're talking about Krishna. This is the difference between someone who is in a material consciousness and someone who is in Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness means naturally the flow of mind is to Krishna. That is Krishna consciousness. Material consciousness is unfortunately due to the covered state of material existence. Dhumena avritam vaner yatho darshana malena cha yatho bena avritam garbhas tata tenedam avritam. As Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that just like the smoke covers the fire, the dust covers the mirror, and the womb, the embryo is there within the womb. Similarly, there is different types of covering for the living entities. And this covering is what is the mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. So the first covering, the smoke covering the fire, is like mode of goodness. The second covering, the dust covering the mirror, is like mode of passion. And the third covering, the embryo within the womb, is like mode of ignorance. And this is all metaphors here. It is not to be taken directly, literally. It is a metaphor to understand the levels of covering. And this is why, if unfortunately one is in mode of ignorance or predominantly mode of passion, it becomes exceedingly difficult to come to mode of ignorance. But what is the goal here is mamchayo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatitetan brahma bhoyaya kalpate. Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that one who has got this avyabhicharini bhakti, this is again this is where one, it's kind of unadulterated. The example of unadulteration is this is what is Srila Rupa Goswami, when he defines Anya-abhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam. That is unadulterated. That is, it is not covered by the Jnana Mishra Bhakti or Karma Mishra Bhakti. So the Jnana Mishra Bhakti is that devotional service where there is a tinge of impersonal inclinations. So these impersonal inclinations indicate that one is not in pure devotional service. And so what is pure devotional service is Anya Abhilashita Shunyam. That is the first line of Srila Rupa Goswami's definition of Bhakti Uttama. The topmost pure devotional service is, the first qualification is there is no other desire except to serve Krishna. And so this is the predominant existence is just, there is only one undercurrent and overcurrent thought, which is to serve Krishna. Yena tena prakarena mana Krishne niveshayet. Somewhere or the other, I want to fix my mind on Krishna at every moment. So how do I do that? Rasoham apsu kaunteya prabhasmi shashi suryayo pranavas sarva vedeshu shabdam khay parusham drishu. Krishna very beautifully gives how one can remember him at every moment. He says that I am the taste in water or any liquid one is taking. Immediately, to live, one has to drink something, drink water and the nourishing aspects, eat. And so, yat karoshi yadashnasi yad juhoshi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushva madarpanam. Krishna says that whatever activities you're doing, whatever you're eating, yad juhoshi dadasi yat, whatever you're giving, whatever sacrifices you're performing, tat kurushva madarpanam. You can offer it to me with love. This is what is tadaham bhakti upahratam ashnami prayatatmana. So this bhakti upahratam is extremely important. The bhaktya mama bijanati yavanyaschashmi tatvada tato mam tatoto gyatva vishate tadanantaram. So Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that only through bhakti one can know Krishna. He doesn't say jnana mam abhijanati. He doesn't say karma mam abhijanati. He doesn't say you can know me through jnana, you can know me through karma. He says bhaktya mam abhijanati. So if one wants to become a great jnani, one can do the jnana marga. One can go. If one wants to become a great karma yogi, one can go in the karma yoga marga. But that is the undercurrent again is the bhakti, because the yoga is bhakti there. The yoga word there is connection. So through the jnana also, the main goal is to connect to Krishna. Vedaisya sarve rahameva vedyo. Vedanta krid vedante vedevacha aham. So this is dharmasvanushtita pumsam viṣvaksenā kathāsya notpadya ratim yadi shrama eva hi kevalam. So that viṣvaksena word is used in that other verse as well, very beautifully. Shrama eva hi kevalam. That unfortunately, if one does not develop their attachment to hear about Krishna, viṣvaksenā kathāsya notpadyat ratim. Rati and matirna Krishne paratas satova mito bipadyeta graha vratanam adanta gobi vishatam tamishram punaha punascharvita charvananam. This is said by Prahlad Maharaj. This is, the rati comes from mati. Mati is the mind being fixed in Krishna. When that fixing of the mind becomes very strong, then it becomes attachment, rati. So this is what is viṣvaksenā kathāsya notpadyat ratim yadi shrama eva hi kevalam. So whatever activities one is doing, if the doing of those activities in the end does not result in attachment to Krishna, then unfortunately it is just a hard labor. So here, very beautiful verse, caritaṁ tasya rājarṣer. And it is a very auspicious day as well today in terms of the advent of Bhagavad Gita, Gita Jayanti. This is when Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, the battlefield of Kurukshetra. This is the Gita Sugita Kartavya Kimanyai Shastra Vistarai Ya Swayam Padmanabhasya Mukha Padma Dvinisruta. It is mentioned in the Gita Mahatmya Shloka, one of the shlokas. It is said that what other scripture one needs to understand. There is no other scripture that one needs to understand. Kimanyai Shastra Vistarai Gita Sugita Kartavya. Why? Because Ya Swayam Padmanabhasya Mukha Padma Dvinisruta. So because the Gita, the words of Bhagavad Gita, the divine song of Shri Krishna, is coming directly from the lotus mouth of the person from whose navel the lotus flower comes. And Brahmaji says, Padmanabha, Ya Swayam Padmanabhasya Mukha Padma Dvinisruta. It is coming from his lotus mouth. And this is what is Nama Pankaja Netraya, Nama Pankaja Maline, Nama Pankaja Nabhaya, Namaste Pankajangraye. This is the wonderful nature of, so one of the beautiful, or if you can say sometimes the most beautiful flower, when one sees it directly, is the lotus flower. And therefore, and the petals of the lotus are very beautifully aligned in terms of their proportions. So that is why Nama Pankaja Netraya, Nama Pankaja Maline. One of the prayers for Krishna is, you've got the eyes like a petals of the lotus flower. Pankaja Netraya. You're wearing the lotus, garland of lotus flower. And Nama Pankaja Nabhaya, Namaste Pankajangraye. Your lotus feet are like lotus. So this is this wonderful beauty of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Divinely beautiful. Shreyam Bhangi Traya Parichitam Shachi Vistirna Drishtib Vamshin Yasta Dharakishalayam Ujvalam Chandrakirna Govindakhyam Haritanam Iti Keshi Tirtopakante Ma Prekshishta Tavayadi Sakhe Bandhu Sangi Stiranga. It's a very beautiful verse by Srila Rupa Goswami. This is the divine beauty of Krishna. So Srila Rupa Goswami says that don't look at this person who is standing on the banks of Keshi Ghat. Ma Prekshishta. Don't look at this person. Tava yadi sakhe bandhu sange stiranga. If you have attachment to your friends, your relatives, bandhu sangha, sange stiranga, and everyone else, if you have attachment to them, don't look at this person. Who is this person? Who is Smeram Bhangi Traya Parichitam. Threefold bending form. Is smiling in a threefold bending form. Smeram Bhangi Traya Parichitam. Shachivishti Nadrishtim. With a sidelong glance. So this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Shri Krishna. Vamshi Nyasta Dharakishalayam Ujvalam Chandrakena. He's got the flute on his lips, and standing on a full moon night in the Keshi Ghat, Keshi Tirthopakante. So this is that the divinely beautiful Krishna. And when one is attracted, when the mind is naturally attracted to this divine beauty of Krishna, automatically one reaches the highest stage of existence in this universe. This is what, when it is said by Srila Rupa Goswami, Yena Tena Prakarena Mana Krishna Niveshayet, somewhere or the other, fix the mind on Krishna. This is the goal there. Because when the mind is fixed on Krishna, it is in its natural position. It doesn't, otherwise, the mind is in a state of flux. It wants to, it cannot stay at one place for a long time. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramathi balavad dridam tasyaham nigraham manye vayuriva sudushkaram. This is what Arjuna says to Krishna. He says that, "O Arjuna, O Krishna, the mind is really not staying at one place. It is constantly moving from one place to another. It is obstinate, it is determined to do its own thing. It does not want to be kept under my control." So when we say my, it is basically indriyani parani ahur indriyabhya paramana yo manasasto paro buddhe yo buddhe paratastu saha. Krishna says that undoubtedly the senses are very strong. Stronger than the senses is mind. Stronger than the mind is intelligence. Stronger than the intelligence is we as an eternal part and parcel of Krishna. The consciousness that we have. So when we just go back to our own consciousness, we can notice the turbulence that is happening. So the example that is given is, for example, if you go into the depths of the ocean, there'll be no turbulence. The turbulence happens at the surface of the ocean where there are waves. Constantly waves are happening, and there is high tide, there is low tide, depending on the moon's, what is a moon. If it is a full moon, then generally there is high tide. If it is no moon, then generally it is low tide. So there is an influence of the moon on the undercurrents of the thoughts. So one of the things that we can understand is, like, moon can be a metaphor for the mind, because the mind, the nature of the mind is that chanchala. It is constantly changing, just like the moon's from the no moon to the full moon, there is constant change in the shape of the moon until it reaches the full moon, and then again it starts waxing and waning, right? As it is said, that is of the moon. Similarly, the mind is like that. It is not in a constant. It is not constantly in a state of peacefulness. It wants agitation, actually, unfortunately. Agitation in the sense that when it is in the material state of existence, it subsists on agitation. But when one understands that one is spiritual, one is an eternal part and parcel of Krishna, then one notices that this agitation is happening. It's not that actually agitation might subside, but it never dies down. So for a person who is totally, so that this noticing of this agitation is the beginning of actual spiritual life. Because until then, what one thinks is that that there is no difference between the thoughts and me. I am the thoughts. So one just gets carried away by the rise and fall of the mind. But when one knows that this is external, this is not me, then one can observe it. And the moment one observes it, one is detached from it. So that is the process of, this is Jnana Marga, actually. The Jnana Marga teaches one to understand to whom the thoughts are arising. Whenever a thought arises, to whom it is arising. So we'll say it is to me. And then the next question is, who am I? So that when one asks this important question of who am I, Kastvam koham kuta ayata, kame janani kame tata. And this is said by Shankaracharya and Bhaja Govindam. To understand koham, and then the answer is soham. So koham means who am I? Answer is thou art that, tattvamasi. That is a Vedic, one of the important Vedic statements. Thou art that. That means, what is that? That is this na jayate mriyate va kadachit nayam bhutva bhavita va nabhuya. That is what is that. That means it is not that one, the natural existence in this material world is that immediately the only thing that is seen is the body. Because everything happens through the body, through the medium of the body. One is seeing, the whole senses are based from the bodily perspective. The mind is a subtle body in that sense. We have discussed this before. It's like the software. So you got the hardware of the body and the software of the mind. And this combination of this hardware and software, one thinks that that is the only reality, and then there is nothing else. But if we look at it from the perspective of a device, for example, you could have all the hardware and software in a device, but if it does not have the power, there is no use of it. Power is coming from the battery. The battery is getting charged from electricity. So this is a metaphor to understand our own constitutional position. So without the consciousness, there is no use of body and mind. It is a consciousness that provides that power to the body and mind. And then the whole functioning happens. So that is what is na jayate mriyate va kadachit. So that awareness is something that has got no beginning and it has no end. The body has got a beginning, and because it has a beginning, it has to have an end. This is what is the basic understanding of spiritual existence. And this can happen nrideham adyam sulabham sudurlabham plavam sukalpam guru karnadharam. It is mentioned in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam the importance of this human form of life. In this human form of life, there is this intelligence which is evolved intelligence. And therefore it is said nrideham adyam. This human form of life is sulabham sudurlabham. Because we have it now, it is sulabham. Because it is there, it can be used. So it has been attained at this particular moment, so we can use it. But it is actually sudurlabham. But when one gets human life, it is not, one cannot know. There is 8,400,000 species. Jalaja navlakshani stavaram lakshavamshati. Kramayo rudra sankhaya pakshinam dashalakshana. So there is, in the scriptures it is mentioned about the different species. And sometimes it can be just an evolution coming from the lowest type of species to the human species. This particular human form of life is sudurlabham. That's why nrideham adyam sulabham sudurlabham, extremely rare. Plavam sukalpam guru karnadharam. So it is said that it is like, another metaphor is given here, it is like a very wonderfully crafted ship. And the captain of the ship is Guru Karnadharam. Mayanukulena nabhasvateritam. And Krishna is sending the winds in the right direction so that one can puman bhavadbhya nataret. One can cross this seamlessly endless ocean of birth and death. Nataret sa atmaha. It is said that unfortunately one is not using one's greatest gift in the right way if one is not engaging in understanding one's original eternal nature as an eternal part and parcel of Krishna. Mama eva amsha jiva loke jiva bhutas sanatana. Manaha shashtani indriyani prakritistani kashati. As Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, that every living entity in this whole universe is my part and parcel. So part and parcel means they are not separate from Krishna in that sense. But that separation is seemed to exist because of the conditioned state of existence. So when that conditioned state is removed, one will know that that separation never existed. So it is in a way, one is in a state of constant connection with Krishna at every moment. It says that padam padam yat vipadam. At every step there is this danger or this feeling of anxiety because samashritaya padapalam mahatpadam punyeshu murare bhavam buddhi vatsa padam param padam yat vipadam natesha. So a very beautiful verse in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. It says that when one has taken total shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna, samyak rupena ashrita. That ashray means shelter. Samyak is total. This is Atma Nivedanam, as Bali Maharaj has done it. So total, or the gopis of Vrindavan. So when that is there, Pada Pallava Plavam. So then again, the lotus feet of the Lord is compared to that of the wonderfully crafted ship. Pada Pallava Plavam, Mahat Padam Punya Yasho Murare. So he is an enemy of the demon Murare, and glorifying him by itself is piety. One does not need to do any other type of pious activity. Just remembering Krishna and glorifying him automatically. Tava kathamratam tapta jivanam kavibhiriritam kalmashapaham shravana mangalam Śrīmad Bhāgavatam bhūvi grananti ye bhuri dājana. So this is the whole. This is the most munificent action that one can perform. When one by oneself is focusing on Krishna and just gets submerged in that ecstatic love for Krishna, that is the most auspicious activity one can do. Because that itself will send that vibrations of Krishna consciousness everywhere, and it's all subtle at the end of the day. It is not, of course, the gross is important as well, because sometimes people understand only gross things. So from that perspective, gross is important. But at the end of the day, the subtle impressions are what that creates a kind of habit in a person. So they sometimes call as subconscious, unconscious. So the whole existence in this material world is mainly stemming up from that unconscious habits, and which comes naturally into the conscious, and that's why one has to understand the undercurrents that are happening within. So in this particular, so why one is in this particular body? There is a huge reason why one gets situated in a particular body. Because it is since time immemorial, one is taking birth after birth. There is the accumulation of all these conditioned desires related to existence in this material world, and that conditioned desires, that accumulation of those conditioned desires is what is the cause of this particular body. So I can understand why I have a particular body by looking at the undercurrents of thoughts that I have within me. What is the proclivity of the unconscious within me, and this will actually help us understand what our nature is, and this is the combination of our subtle and gross body that we have got now. But the goal here is that somehow or other, if one can understand the importance of being fixed in consciousness as an eternal part and parcel of Krishna, that is the goal. And when we read this verse, caritaṁ tasya rājarṣer, ādi-rājasya sattama. So this particular verse is a discussion between Mahatma Vidur and Maitreya Muni, and brūhi me śraddadhānāya, niṣṭitam brūhi tanme śiṣyasteham sādi mam tvam prapannam karpanya dosho apahata svabhava pruchhami tvam dharma sammudha cheta yashryasyam niṣṭitam brūhi tanme śiṣyasteham sādi mam tvam prapannam. This is what Arjuna said to Krishna, and here that brūhi word is used. Brūhi me śraddadhānāya. So this is the request to please talk about this great personality, Manu. There he is a ādi-rājasya, imam rājarṣayo vidu, sakalini hamata yogo nashta parantapa. This is, the ādi-rājasya is an important word here. So ādi-rājasya are the people who have got the characteristics of Raja, a king, and Rishi, a saint. So it's like a saintly king. So basically they have a combination of mode of goodness and mode of passion. And mode of passion is needed to do the administration. This is, as it is said, yuddhe chapi apalayanam, kshatriya dharma, kshat trayate. Kshat means if someone is being injured or someone is causing atrocity to someone else. Trayate means one who liberates. So basically, one who does not allow the injustice to happen to anyone. That is kshatriya. So that is the kshatriya dharma. So there has to be a mode of passion there in order to do that work. But then there is mode of goodness as well in that, in terms of taking the advice from the brahmanas, the Rajguru, as it is said. So Rajguru are the brahmanas, and these ādi-rājasya, these rajas, these kings take advice from those brahmanas, the Rajguru. So Rajguru is mainly predominantly in mode of goodness, sattva, samodamat, titiksha, arjavam, jnana vijnanam, astikyam, brahma karma svabhavajam. So this is the brahmanas, titiksha, arjavam, simplicity, forbearance, titiksha karunika sukhrudam sarvadehinam, ajātashatravashanta sadhavo sadhubhushanam. It is mentioned about what are the real jewelry that a saintly person wears, the qualifications, the qualities. The first is titiksha, forbearance, karunika, costless mercy, suhridam sarvadehinam, best friend of all the living entities, ajātashatrava. For them, an enemy has never been born. So that means that even though someone else is inimical to them, they do not look at them from that perspective. Because one of the greatness of the person who is totally surrendered onto Krishna is that they are always understanding that internally everyone is an eternal part and parcel of Krishna. We can very beautifully understand this from that incident of Ambarish Maharaj and Durvasa Muni. We see that Ambarish Maharaj has taken the Ekadashi, and the next day when the fast has to be broken, basically Durvasa Muni and his 1,000 disciples are coming, and they need to be welcomed properly, and they need to be given food and everything. But there is another rule that the host has to have something as well. And then in consultation with his guru, Ambarish Maharaj decides to take the water, but then Durvasa Muni becomes angry, and then he tries to curse Ambarish Maharaj, but then the Sudarshan Chakra from Krishna goes behind Durvasa Muni, and he asks forgiveness from Krishna himself, but then Krishna says, you go and ask forgiveness from Ambarish Maharaj, because you have offended my devotee. And so so basically Ambarish Maharaj himself did not want to do anything, even though Durvasa Muni was in a state of anger and cursing him and all those things. But this is that sadhavo hridayam mahyam sadhunam hridayam tuaham madanyat tena janati naham tebhyo managapi. That is that the close relationship between the pure devotees of the Lord and Krishna himself. They are constantly Krishna says, Sadhavo Hridayam Mahyam, Sadhunam Hridayam Tva Aham. So the sadhus are in my heart, and in sadhu's heart I am there. Sadhavo Hridayam Mahyam, Sadhunam Hridayam Tva Aham, Madanya Tena Janati. They do not know anything other than me. Naham Tebhyo Managapi. And I do not know anything other than them. So there is this beautiful connection between the pure devotees of the Lord and Krishna. And therefore, this particular verse is quite significant from that perspective. Manu, the first progenitor of mankind, in that sense. So, Mahatma Vidur is asking from Maitreya Muni that please help me understand their life history. Caritaṁ tasya rājarṣer, ādi-rājasya sattama. So he's been addressed as the most pious one. So, brūhi me śraddadhānāya. So this śraddhavan labhate jnanam. Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that the actual transcendental knowledge is obtained when one has got that faith in Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that Shraddha shabde viṣvas karile sudhrida nischay, Krishne bhakti kaile sarva karma kritahai. It is mentioned in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita that the topmost faith is that faith where one knows 100% that just by involving in devotion service of Krishna, all the other work is automatically performed. And one is situated in that state of existence. And then there is another verse which says, Shraddhavan jana haya bhakti adhikari, kanishta madhyama uttama shraddha anusari. It is said that the actual person who is qualified to have this loving devotion service to Krishna is a person who has got faith. And the gradation of the different types of devotees is based on the faith. So you got the neophyte, you got the person who is in the medium state, and you got the person who is in the topmost state, madhyama and uttama. The madhyamadhikari ishvara tadadhineshu balisheshu dushyatsu sa prema maitri kripa upeksha yakaroti sa madhyama. Archayam eva hariye pujaya śraddadhānāya natad bhakteshu cha anyeshu sa bhakta prakrita smrita. So there is the neophyte devotee who is very nicely performing the devotional service of the deities, but does not know how to deal with the devotees. And that is the and the general populace. That is the neophyte. That is the kanishta. And then there is madhyama. One understands the difference between ishvara tadadhineshu balisheshu dushyatsu. The four categories. That there is Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is this devotee, tadadhineshu. There are innocent people, balisheshu. And then there are dushyatsu. There are envious people. So one has prema for ishvara, maitri. Prema is love, maitri is friendship for the devotees, kripa, that is the mercy for the innocent, and upeksha for the envious. Upeksha is one is not associating with the envious, because unfortunately tanaham dushata kruran samsareshu naradaman kshipaya ajasram ashubhan asurishva eva yonishu. It is an unfortunate situation. Namam dushkritino mudha prapadyante naradhama maya parata jnana asuram bhavam ashrita. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that unfortunately people who are in a state of dushkriti, kriti is activities, dush is sinful, bad activities. So unfortunately one is involved in that. Namam dushkritino, one does not prapadyante, one does not surrender onto Krishna if one is involved in sinful activities. And Krishna actually gives the kinds of unfortunate people who are not, who are doing those sinful activities. Mudha, Naradhama, Maya, Parata, Jnana, Asuram, Bhavam, Ashrita. The four categories. Unfortunately, in a foolish state of existence, Mudha, Namam Dushridra Mudha, Naradhama, lowest among the mankind, Maya, Parata, Jnana, one whose actual intelligence has been taken away by the material energy of the Lord, and asuram bhavam ashrita. And one who is unfortunately in a really demoniac state of existence. Now, it is really unfortunate situation. So this is that is a śraddadhānāya. That is without the faith, if a person is existing. And Srila Prabhupada actually gives a very there are different examples given. One of the examples is even for doing anything in this material existence, there is some amount of faith that is needed. For example, if one is traveling from one place to another, there has to be the faith that things are going to be fine during the journey, that nothing untoward is going to happen during the journey. So that faith is the basis of our existence even in this material world, because that is what is creating peacefulness. Because if I have, and that faith is in a sense gratitude as well, being grateful about what is the current position that we are in, irrespective of what that position is. Because one can always, even it is sometimes not a good condition, one can always be grateful about whatever small good condition one has. And that gratefulness and that faith about this auspiciousness, that things, that everything is going on under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. This is what is makes one this, there is padam yat vipadam, as we said in the beginning. At every step there is anxiety. Vanam gato yad harim ashrayet. Like Prahlad Maharaj had said that sadhu manya suravarya dehinam sada samudvigna dhiyam. Unfortunately, in this material existence, there is always some kind of anxiety or another. Why is it that there is some kind of anxiety? Because one is taking something that is temporary to be permanent, or one unfortunately wants to make something temporary permanent. And the whole existence in the scientific realm, in terms of anti-aging and things like that, is trying to focus on those aspects from external perspective. But the real solution lies internally. When there is understanding that this is the external is, as Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grananti naroparani tatha shariraya vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. Krishna very beautifully mentions in Bhagavad Gita, he gives the metaphor of someone taking off the old clothes and putting on a new cloth. So exactly the same way, the living entity takes off the old body and puts on a new body. Dhiras tatra na muhyati. Dehi nosmi yatha dehe kaumaram yavanam jara. Because there is a proprietor of the body within the body, dehi asmin dehe, within the body, there is kaumaram yavanam and jara. And there is this childhood, youth and the old age. Tatha dehantaram prapti. Krishna says, similarly, when the time for this body is over, one has to give up this body. Dhiras tatruna muhyati. Dhira is a sober person, therefore does not get muhyati, bewildered by these changes that are happening. This is what is the goal of human form of life. Etad viditya ya prayati sa brahmana. Etad avidyata ya prayati sa kripana. Srila Prabhupada in one of the purports quotes this particular verse, particular statement from the scriptures, saying that one who leaves a body understanding one's eternal nature as an eternal part and parcel of Krishna is actually the Vaishnava or Brahmana. And one who leaves a body unfortunately thinking that that this body was the all in all is kripana, unfortunately in a state of miserliness. And it is misery as well. So there is the cause of misery. sada samudvigna dhyam asadgrahat. This is what Prahlad Maharaj says. There is constant anxiety because one thinks the temporary to be permanent. But if one knows that the permanent is what I am and the temporary is a covering that I have, and one gets established in that fact by surrendering onto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then the goal of human form of life is completed. This is what is Krishna says, Janma karmam cha me divyam evam yoveti tatvatah tyaktva deham punarjanmam neti mameti so Arjuna. This is what is brūhi me śraddadhānāya viṣvaksenāśrayo hi asau. This ashraya of Vishvaksena, that is the goal of the human form of life. Taking shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. Very beautiful verse. So one takes the shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna by listening to the wonderful activities of Krishna and his pure devotees. In this particular verse, the discussion is going to ask about the activities of the pure devotee, the Manu. So the Manvantaras, there are 14 Manvantaras in a day of Brahma. And the Manvantara is the reign of Manu. And Manu is constantly serving Krishna. So that is what is viṣvaksenāśrayo hi asau. Serving Krishna by being totally surrendered onto the lotus feet of Krishna. As we said, samāśritaye padapallava plavam. Punya padam, mahat padam punyeshu murare, bhavam buddhi vatsa padam param padam, padam padam yat vipadam na tesham. So actually, at every step in this material existence, there is vipada. There are difficulties, there is anxiety. But na tesham, not for that person. Who? Samāśritaye padapallava plavam. One who has taken total shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. So this is the kind of conclusion of this verse. Caritaṁ tasya rājarṣer ādi-rājasya sattama brūhi me śraddadhānāya viṣvaksenāśrayo hi asau. So the translation here is, O best of the virtuous, the original King of Kings, Manu, was a great devotee of the Personality of Godhead Hari, and thus it is worth hearing of his sublime character and activities. Please describe them. I am very eager to hear. So this eagerness, this is what is Maya sattamana partha yogam yunjam madashrayam asamshayam samagram mam yatha jñāsyasi tat shruṇu. This eagerness is tatra laulyam api ekalam mūlyam janma koti sukritirna labhyate. It is an intense greed. It's a spiritual greed. It's a greed that is going to liberate one from this material existence. That is that eagerness. The eagerness to constantly remember Krishna. The eagerness to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. This eagerness is a very natural state of existence. But unfortunately, due to the covering that one has, one is not able to understand one's natural state. Srila Prabhupada gives the example of if one has got the jaundice, even if one is tasting the sweet thing, it tastes bitter. But one of the things that one has to do to come out of jaundice is to keep taking that so-called bitter thing, so that when the jaundice is over, it actually tastes sweet. So exactly the same way, unfortunately, when one is in a conditioned state of existence, this most madhura, most tasty and sweet activity of Krishna consciousness, unfortunately, sometimes looks like bitter thing to do. But when one has got this love for the Lord, and with that love, when one engages in that loving devotional service, one will know that That is the most sweetest thing in the whole universe. So with this prayer that we always have this eagerness to hear about Krishna and his wonderful devotees. Thank you very much for listening. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guru. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupada. Namo Viṣvaksenāśrayo Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti Vedanta Samaniti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paśyate Deshatarane. Sarvam Shri Krishna Pranamastu. Krishni Matirastu. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.